Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Success is Complicated podcast. I am RaQuel Hopkins, your host.
And I am Cieara Davis, your co-host.
And as you can see, we have a very special guest this morning. Yes, 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. But this is, she wears many hats. The one that I'm most proud of is a very good friend of both of ours. But this is Nicole Rowley, a.k.a. Nikki. She is an entrepreneur. She's the founder of Luxurious Web Design. She's a traveler. She's a chef. She's a godmommy. She's an amazing friend. She's in IT. She's project manager. She got a lot of jobs too. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is sort of like resiliency and strength and building your confidence and leaning into your identities. You just heard me introduce Nikki. She wears a lot of different identities, but one of those identities she's had to really, really lean into because it's not necessarily a norm, or society doesn't necessarily approve of it, or depending on who you're talking to, they don't necessarily approve of it. So I wanted to bring her in to talk about what it looks like building strength in the face of adversity and all those things. So I'll have Nikki introduce herself and say whatever it is that you want to say to our followers.
Awesome. Thank you for the good intro. And as she said, I do an array of different things, but one of the things I'm most proud of is having these amazing people as my friends, just because I think being supported by a support system makes any of those hats even more seamless to lean into, because you have support. And then even if you don't, I still feel like we owe it to ourselves to be our best selves by exploring life and identifying what works best for us and building upon that. So one of the things I think she's mentioning is me exploring life and just finding what's best for me. So I think one of those things for me has been, like I said, having really good friends, being a business owner, being a traveler, being a chef, and one of my identities is being a member of the LGBT community. I think that's another hat that I wear and another identity, I would say.
Okay, now y'all know I like to talk about victimhood because truth be told, no matter what identity you wear, right? What doesn't change is there are challenges that come with just the roles that we wear. We're wives, we're moms, we're professionals, and the weight of those titles sometimes can be a lot. What I'm curious to know is, Nikki, how do you allow yourself not to become a victim?
Yeah,
as it relates to that identity, the LGBT.
I would say, it's something that's not widely accepted around the world, right? There are some places where you will not have access to rights. You will not have access to the support that you need. So I think in those moments, it's to not look at yourself that's just a subject of the what's, but more so your hows. How are you going to go about making this whatever it could be for you in the most seamless or easy way, and making sure that you've done your self-work in terms of how you feel, what you're thinking, and making sure you're not super destination oriented. I think in life we could be destination oriented. We're like, oh, I can't wait till I get here. I can't wait till I get there. Sometimes you don't know where you're going. So I think it's about also enjoying the journey and exploring, surrounding yourself by newness and working it out to the best of your ability. And I know for me in that journey, it was, I'm going to try this. I'm going to see if this is me. I'm going to see if I like this. And then sometimes you let things go. Sometimes you say, I don't want to do this anymore, or this isn't for me. But then I think there are certain things where you're like, okay, this is a part of me. How do I make this work? Doing the self-work and doing the best that you can.
I'm glad you said, because I'm getting ready to tell a funny story. So Nikki and I met in college.
Yeah.
And the Nikki that you see right now, she didn't have dreads and this turban and all that. She wore a silk press, just like me. She wore her dresses And she was in the gym. That's another identity she wears too. She loves working out, and she was famous for her 6-pack, 8-pack, 12-pack, whatever you had. But I remember when we first met, just like Nikki was saying about like don't get so destination oriented. When we first met, we were in college. We were looking forward to graduating, like life after college. She was dating. I was dating. We relocated. We relocated here to Houston. Nikki relocated to Houston with her boyfriend at the time, who eventually became her fiance. Tell us about that, Nikki.
I think it's just not being super destination oriented. As I mentioned, where you think you're going here, then you're like, oh no, we're not going here anymore. We're not going to do this anymore. And that's exactly what happened. I came to Houston. I did my self-work, right? New environment, new people, new opportunities, put myself outside of my comfort zone. I quit my job. I didn't have a job when I moved here. And then, of course, I got a job. It was back in 2013. And as a part of all of that, it was really being on the journey and discovering and realizing what works best for me. And if it's not something that feels genuine, if it's not something that's working, if it's something where I have to settle into something that's not for me, as we talk about identities, then we're going to change that identity. We're going to change what we're doing and how we're doing that. And that's what I did. So
kind of talk about the process, though, because I was getting ready to put on a bridesmaid's dress or maid of honor.
You were. We had
Right.
We were on our way to a wedding.
We were about to have a whole wedding in 2014. We were almost going to be up there, and we didn't make it up there. But I think
we did. We still went. We just didn't go.
It wasn't a wedding. We still went on the trip because we're not going to waste all the money. But no, in that moment, it was about identifying what feels best for me, what feels to be authentic to me, and what needs to happen. And for me, mind you, at that time, it wasn't where I didn't know where I was going next. I didn't know what I was going to do next. And I think that's scary for a lot of people when you're like, okay, here's one option where I can go here, and it's defined. And then it's like, no, I'm just going to take this other route, but it's not defined. So you kind of love the journey and you realize I'm going to have to explore. I'm going to have to discover. I'm going to have to do some work. And that's what I chose to do. I said, I don't know if this is the best decision for right now. Right? Here's one identity. So let me do some exploration to see if there's something else that, could be better for me. Right? And then along the way, you might discover,
better for you?
Hell yeah, I'm sitting up here with a turban on and these dreads. I'm real comfortable.
So, Nikki, what I want you to tell our followers actually what happened. Like what is it that you're talking about? What did you do?
Yeah. So for me, mind you, I was dating somebody, and granted, we had always gotten along. It wasn't as if that we stopped getting along. Still a great person. I was a great person. But then you start to think about how you're changing. And that's how I looked at myself, which is I'm changing, right? This identity.
To be honest with myself.
Right. The identity isn't the same as it used to be. So something that once worked before isn't working now. And it's a part of growth and change. And that's what I was going through, which it was scary. In 2013, I just got to Houston. I had you guys, which was great. But then I was like, okay, things start to feel different. Thoughts are different. Emotional constructs different. And that's what happened. So then it was, okay, here's a wedding. Here's an opportunity that I could get married. But then it was like, no, this may not be best for me. And it was one of those things where you can't say in certain moments, oh, it isn't or it is, because if you don't make certain decisions, you won't know. So it's also about taking risks and saying, all right, could this be something better if I take this risk? And sometimes you don't know until you take that risk. And that's what I did. I said, nope, now's not the time. We didn't get married. We went on the trip, and then, life progressed. So
when you decided to not get married, did you feel like a failure at any point?
No, not really. I didn't feel like that might sound bad, but no, I didn't, because for me, I knew it was a season of growth and change. And I didn't equate that to failing. I just said, let me explore and find out, again, if this is going to be something as a better option. And it was just living life and figuring it out, honestly.
What does victimhood look like as a member of the LGBT community?
It's hard to say in that realm, because there are a lot of people, and I know it's a privilege to even be a part of the community in America, because we have more rights and access to more resources here. And there are still so many people who don't. So just thinking about around the world, I think some people, unfortunately, their reality is going to be a lot more harsh than what it is. You could be killed around the world for being open about your orientation. So with that, I think when we even say victimhood objectively, it's where you're in your mind and you're like, oh, life is happening to me. And all of these things are contributing to how I'm a victim of what's around me. And you're internalizing that, and you're not leveraging the best of you. You're not being your best self because you're like, oh, here are all the what's, and you're not adjusting your hows in any way whatsoever. So I think that's where we see a lot of victimhood, where you're living in this space and it's not the best of your ability, and then you're just subjected to so much around you because everything impacts you, and then you lose that emotional ability. But again, in the community, there are a lot of people around the world where you won't even have the ability to be open. So I think it's also very different, and it's important we say that because honestly, you could be killed around the world. So being in America and in even having, some of us having the rights and the abilities that we have, it is a privilege.
So Nikki, I love the fact that you say it is a privilege to be a part of the LGBT community because we're in America. Why is it so important that we share our sexuality with the world, the people around us? Why is it so important?
Yeah, I think it's a part of our identity. It's a part of us. And I think you never know how you can, one, liberate other people just by you being you. And then I think also it's a part of you being able to say, okay, this is how I'm doing it. This is a part of me. This is how it's either working for me or not working for me. And if you do have the ability to, it gives you the ability to be more comfortable, right? And I understand that's not the reality for all people, but when it is an opportunity, take advantage of that. Be yourself. Don't feel like you have to stay closeted in that, And with that being said, it allows you to be a better you because you're being authentic.
I love how you say don't closet yourself in, because I know that we're talking about being a member of the LGBT community. But when you say privilege, it makes me think about all of our identities, right? To be a mom, to be a wife, to be an entrepreneur, all of those things are privileges.
Right. Even to be Black.
Yeah, even to be Black, because, you can get into when it comes to being LGBT. Some people say it's not a choice. And I would say that if we look at ourselves subjectively and we start to really just see ourselves as the main universe, you're not able to open up your perspective. So it's not about whether being LGBT member is a choice or not, because I didn't choose to be Black, but I'm glad I am.
Yeah.
So going back to what does it look like when you closet yourself in any identities? Because I know that you can do it as a mom, you can do it as a wife, because I guess to some degree, whether you've made the choice or not, it's really about leaning into life. And like Nikki was saying, there is uncertainty in life and being okay with uncertainty. So I guess, Cieara, maybe your perspective, what does it look like to closet yourself into these identities?
I can say for me, I've closeted myself into a identity of being a mom and a wife, right? And what did it mean to closet it in is, to me, to hold it near and dear to me, and not necessarily see it as a privilege, right? In the moment that you switch it around and see it as a privilege, you can really lean in and be your best self for those people that are with you.
So I'm trying to define the privilege aspect of it, because yesterday I had an amazing day yesterday. For those of you that don't know, Nikki is very intentional about making sure that we do our bi-weekly, sometimes monthly brunches, but she understands our lives. She understands that we have transitions, but she's very intentional about making sure that we get time together. So we started off with our brunch yesterday, and then we went to Whole Foods, playing around in Whole Foods. Cieara went in there and got some plants and some soap.
Those plants smell
and
really
some $70 vitamins too.
And some vitamins. And then after that, I went home with my family. We went to a soccer game, like the balance of it all. And I think that when you start to recognize that leaning in and being who you are as a person is a privilege, like it doesn't feel as heavy.
Right.
Yeah, like it feels like less heavy, because I'm not gonna lie, like, cause today I got another girl. I have something else planned. I'm going to the spa today, doing a lunch with another good girlfriend of mine, and I was like, oh, I got a heavy weekend. Like I started getting in my head too. I'm like, I have a heavy weekend. Like, how do I make sure that I'm balancing time with my kids and my husband? But it's a privilege to have good friends, right? That's the thing. Right. The date that I have today is me saying a thank you for somebody that has, had my back as I deal with some things with my dad. And y'all can tell like I'm losing some weight from that first episode. So she's been helping me. So I just want to go and say thank you, but I'm not gonna lie, like, you remember when you texted me this week and you were like, all right, we're doing brunch because we're kind of off schedule. And I was like, give me until Wednesday. But truth be told, I started to feel a little guilty because I was like, I got a lot going on this weekend. How am I going to balance it all? And the minute you start thinking like that, the things that we really do enjoy, we pull ourselves away from it, because I am so glad that I did not miss brunch yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
Like I thought about it and I was like, I'm mindful about, and I don't think that Danny cares, but I do feel the need sometimes. I'm like, I am more than just a mom and a wife. Like that's me getting defensive though, because all of my identities are important to me, and I realize like how important it is to spend time here, spend time there. But I started to feel a little guilty this week. I was like, can we do brunch another time? Let me see about Wednesday. But I was really trying to process my feelings about having a heavy weekend that was outside of my house.
Yeah.
Y'all know I love Steve Harvey if you follow me on Instagram. But what he said was, I get to, not that I got to. And when I started looking at motherhood like that and marriage like that, like I get to, be a part of their lives, not I got to, right? Then it made it easier for me to lean into those times where I really got to and enjoy the times that I get to. And what that's also allowed me to do is take care of myself first. Meaning when they say, let's go to brunch, I'm not even thinking about the schedule. I'm like, if I got to cancel something else.
You don't think about the bill either.
No, I don't.
Them drinks.
So, and I'm willing to pay for those drinks, by the way.
That ain't the point. That ain't the point. We rotate how we pay.
Time.
We rotate how we pay.
We do.
No, because sometimes we'll just say, Nikki.
Right, because Nikki's in the she's in the better season. Right, she's in a better season. I'm in the season of I ain't got it. I just ain't got it. Y'all know I quit my job and I'm still trying to recover from
And I'm in the season of, you know what? If I'm feeling it, let's do it.
Absolutely.
So really heading back to Nikki, I am grateful that you keep us, on track for these brunches, because what I was telling RaQuel is that is a big part of self-care, right?
Yeah.
And it really helps me walk into my identity as human more than anything, right?
Right.
I get to experience several parts of myself and not reserving the better parts of me for just marriage or mothering.
Yeah, and I think that self-care is important. I think it allows you to show up better for your respective identities, to be a better mom, to be a better friend, to be a better cook, or whatever it is that you're doing. You need to take care of yourself first. So when you prioritize that, whether it's brunches, massages, meditation, whatever it is for you.
My self-care is different in this season. My self-care is being responsible. I mean,
that is a part of self-care.
Yeah. I feel like that's where I am in adulthood. I do a really good job at, I think, taking care of myself, but my self-care is making good decisions. Like even the decision on, because I text you before Wednesday. I don't know if you noticed, but that was me saying like, let me not push my friends off or push Nikki off, because I would imagine, Nikki, you got to feel sometimes like these girls are so raggedy. Like
I don't. I mean, I know you're serving in other identities, but then also I don't take when someone's not available personally, because if you needed to work on self-care, it's easy to judge or assume. If you were needing to work on self-care, I'd say, oh, well, you need to do that first so you could show up to this brunch better, right? So I don't look at that and take it personally.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Like if I don't say it enough, I really, really, really love you. And she's really a dope person. Like,
yes,
she is really a dope person, not just on Instagram, because she be on Instagram. But she's really a dope person in real life. And yesterday we were making jokes about, because Cieara and I have been friends for umpteen years, for a very long time. And I know that I have been very... I haven't let other people come into Cieara's circle. Now that I've gotten older, I realize that Cieara just don't let people come to her circle. It's not me. But Nikki, I was determined to bring her into the circle or just figure it out some way. And somehow we've all just managed to just like mesh and lean in and just be there for each other.
Yeah.
Right. So when RaQuel introduced Nikki, I've never, ever felt uncomfortable with Nikki. As RaQuel says, she's an amazing person. And one of her greatest characteristics, and I guess the friendship with both of us, is her supportiveness. Like Nikki...
She take real good care of her woman. Boy, he take care of real good care.
Don't do that.
You do be taking good care of the woman.
Oh Lord, that is
it's on Instagram.
Right, any of her women, but not in that way, guys. Like we are her friends, and when I say that Nikki is supportive,
look, she letting them know one of her identities is not.
Like, don't do this, y'all.
Nikki is super supportive, guys. When anything that you mention to her that you're passionate about or that you want to do, you want to get into, she goes the extra mile to support you in that. And I guess I want to say I appreciate that as a friend.
No, and I appreciate you guys too. I think it's important that we acknowledge what people have done for us and how amazing life is because of the people around us. So I really do appreciate you guys. I love you guys.
I love you.
Even being here today is amazing. So I appreciate that.
So Nikki, one of the things, not only are you like a dope person, Nikki she's like well-rounded. Yeah. She's like well-rounded. I've always made jokes. I say like when my kids get older, I hope that they have like what you embody, like the sense of, when I say well-rounded, what I mean is like, you're not a judgmental person. You understand like both sides of the railroad tracks, so to speak. And it allows you to show up for so many different people. And I think that that's important because you don't get so caught up in like what you have to where you're not able to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I've always loved about you. Well, I don't know, because when we met in college, like what you saw is what you got. And I remember I took Nikki to my house in Virginia. I took her to my house in Virginia, and we had the ACs hanging out of the windows, and she got locked in the bathroom. It is what it is. And she was like, it ain't no big deal. Like, it's no big deal. Like, and she embraced my family. She's just never been judgmental. And I think it speaks to our friendship, right? Like, we've been in some tough seasons. Some tough seasons as we continue to grow and evolve. What I'm curious, because I know you travel a lot. Yeah. How do you take care of yourself? Because I do feel like you give like a lot. Like, I feel like in this last season of the last 2 years, just being honest, you have given me a lot of grace. A lot of grace. How do you take care of you?
Yeah, I think the first thing is doing your own self-work. thinking about, hey, what do I need? What do I want? What do I desire? And prioritizing that. Because if you don't prioritize that and if you're not consistent with that for yourself, it won't get done. So one of the things for me I do is I meditate every morning. This is new for me. I started doing it in the past 3 years.
What's your meditation look like?
Well, you know what? I'm very cliche with my meditation. I'll get on YouTube, I'll put in meditation, and there's music, and you just zone out and you dedicate a portion of your day to not doing anything, being on your phone, talking to people, being distracted.
How long do you meditate?
At a minimum, I will do 15 minutes in the beginning of the morning, just 15 minutes.
Sierra taught me how to, she's been trying to teach me how to meditate because I don't know how to shut my I don't really know how to shut my mind down.
At first, I didn't either. I was like...
Show them how you taught me. See, she said, start in your head. Head, chest, stomach. So I do head, chest, stomach. But I can only do it for a few minutes, though. I can't...
It's good. That's good that you can do something. They have guided meditation.
What's the benefit?
It gives you an opportunity to be either zoned out, you're not processing thinking, or you're in certain thoughts, right? I think you have to be intentional with your meditation, where if you're a really active thinker, if you're an anxious person, whatever it is, you're saying, in this portion of my day, I'm not letting the world get into this space. You're putting a boundary around it, and you're dedicating yourself just to being with yourself. And that can mean an array of different things. Because I know with guided meditation, that can be helpful as you start, because you're hearing via audio what it is that you should do. For me, I don't do that anymore. I used to, and then now it's just calming music, and I'll put on a little incense and things like that, and I'll just zone out. But it looks different for everybody. But you have to start somewhere. So meditation.
You don't got to though. You can make your own rules. Look,
you can
meditate. I'd meditate in the shower.
Hey, that's good too. Does that
count?
It counts.
That's why I feel
right.
I've tried your method.
They said they meditate while brushing their teeth and just getting ready in the morning.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's what the shower does to me. My mind shuts off when I'm in the shower. Cieara meditates too.
I do,
but she meditates for an hour.
No, I have meditated for an hour several times, but now my routines are maybe 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah,
and it's really around breathing. Because whenever you breathe, number one, you're alivening your body and, centering yourself. And it allows me to really, really shut off my thoughts if I just focus on my breathing. And the slower breathing does not shut off my thoughts. So the meditation practice that I do, I breathe in through my nose.
That's what she taught me.
Expand my lungs, and then make sure I'm getting the breath going up through my nostrils as well. And I continue that for 30 to 40 cycles. Hold my breath. Stay there for a minute or as long as I can, and then I take a deep breath out. And it's amazing. It's amazing, y'all.
So, not to, I was just having a thought, right? Because we don't know what this topic is. We don't know what we're talking about today, but I still feel like it's good stuff. I think it's the authenticity of our friendships, and then just resiliency and strength. Nikki had sent me an agenda, right? Because we know that she is. She likes to be structured. She's very business savvy, very business minded. That's another one. And she's a consultant too. She can get you right if you're looking at becoming an entrepreneur. I'm tired of following a bunch of rules, but I want to, Nikki, how do you feel right now? Because this is so unstructured. How do you feel?
Hey, this is a part of the journey. Granted, who is to say where you go each and every single day? But I'm glad I'm with you guys. And if you get so sometimes focused on the structure and, like I said, destination oriented, here, following an agenda, then you don't sometimes get to embrace it for what it is, right? If you're on the journey and you're exploring for whatever that could mean, it could turn out well. It could be amazing. And if you don't allow yourself to let go of those controls, then sometimes you miss out on those opportunities.
Right, like you did this morning. She parked her car.
Let me tell you, this morning, they said park in the middle of the road. Traffic going this way, traffic going that way. If we could take this podcast outside, they're going to be like, oh, you're in the middle of the road. We are in the middle of the road. I hope the car is still out there.
Nikki taking the Uber
really, really fast.
She did.
She parked that car and got
Nikki's going to tell us what this episode is about. What are we talking about here?
Well, we talked about identities, you know, the ability to serve within them in different ways.
It being a privilege.
Being it a privilege to be in certain identities. Also realizing that as we serve in certain identities, it's not going to be all destination oriented. Sometimes you're going to explore and you'll be on a journey, and then to show up better in those certain disciplines and certain identities, it does take self-care so you can become better in those respectively. I say sometimes we think, okay, maybe being a mom, in order to be a better mom, I need to do X, Y, and Z. Sometimes all you need to do is work on yourself, and then everything else falls in alignment. So we talked about meditation, and then, you know, I think what self-care looks like will differentiate for different people.
Do you get upset when people don't work on themselves?
I don't get upset. I don't take it personally because
what annoys you though? Like what's the one thing that really annoys
victimhood? Victimhood. I don't like that. Especially if you have other opportunities and options.
But what do you say too? Because she's always telling me there is no way I could be like no life coach, no therapist or anything.
I'd get fired day one.
What do you say to people that really feel like they don't have any options? Because you really do have the ability to move on. We just gave just this morning, you parked your car in the middle of the street.
I'm glad you're acknowledging that. It's in the road.
It's in the middle of the road, but it's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. And then you came in here, you went with the flow.
Yeah.
She like, I'm good.
Yeah, so I tell people, you know, you're saying, hey, I don't have options. I don't have choices. And I'll say, you know, well, why is it that you don't think that if you do, right? Sometimes people don't. I will admit sometimes people are in certain scenarios and in certain situations and in certain environments that are very difficult. But in certain aspects of life, you're not. So it's okay, why are you honing in on the no's and the I can'ts and what is it that you can do? Even making a little bit of progress, because sometimes you just need to move forward a few inches and then, okay, you can move forward a few feet, a few yards, and then you're going miles and you're getting further and further along. So it's to, it's to shift our thinking.
Look at you.
It's
Girl, we gotta have you some more.
Yeah, just change your thinking a little bit about it, because I think in order to grow as people, most of everything, it starts with how you think and how you process. Oh, this isn't turning out the way that I want. Well, how are you thinking about it, right? Even small stuff like going to the gym. You may not be the smartest person in alignment with, okay, let's talk about, I have to read this book or I have to do this at work, but going to the gym as a small thing, it's like, okay, how are you consistent? How do you prioritize? You know, what's most important to you, and taking it day by day.
You know, what you just said, that how you think, right, is important. And just thinking about, and this is spiritual to some degree, for your identity, being a member or having that privilege of being a part of the LGBT community, like what belief, because, you know, the Bible says that Adam and Eve, period.
Yeah.
What belief do you have spiritually that allows you to get up every day and continue to like be you?
Yeah, I would say for me, it's about
with the Bible saying that that's a no.
Well, first of all, I don't read the Bible.
And I would say that God is love.
I don't read things that don't support me.
He says God.
So I mean, I'm being honest. I can't.
No, that's okay.
I can't read something that doesn't allow me to be a better me. So that's another thing. You can feed into a lot of things, but if it's not serving you and if it's not good for you, then it might not be, because some things are not good for you. Because for some people, it might work for them. It might be good for them. And not to disrespect anyone's religion or beliefs.
No, this is not. This is not about that.
It differentiates for everybody. So for me, I understand, you know, the opportunities I have as an individual, you know, I'm blessed to have that, you know. So with that being said, I do the best I can do each day.
So what's the belief? What's the belief? Because
and the better you are as a person, and the more you put out that's positive, the more that comes back onto you. With your thinking, with your emotional construct, what you do for others, that comes back to you.
You believe in God though, right?
I do believe, yeah.
You do believe. So what's your belief? How does God view Nikki today?
God has blessed me. So I look at it and say, I'm doing the right things, right? Because I still have favor put over my life. Certain things have been provided unto me, whether it's Jesus, whether it's Buddha, whoever it is. I understand there's a creator, and you need to do the right thing, no matter what God you believe in, right? Because I think we can get fixated on the religion as opposed to the principle and the concept of, hey, do the right thing, do what you're supposed to do.
The principle. Because none of that stuff really, not that it doesn't matter, but I think that we can become so attached to
who the God's supposed to be.
Yeah, who the God is supposed to be, what it's supposed to look like. And when you start to talk, because y'all know I love talking about how adults develop and this whole mental complexity. Nikki is a representation of that, which is why I'm happy that she's on the podcast, because even though, and I'm sure you probably grew up just like us, like Jesus, the Christianity, but your ability to be able to think outside the box and says that this is one way of doing it, and not also criticizing it too, because when you just say like, I don't read things that do not necessarily serve me, what that does not mean is that she has a problem with people that do read the Bible. And I think that that's important. And when you start to talk about like happiness, like if you want, Nikki chooses happiness like every single day. And that doesn't mean that she doesn't have her days or she's not feeling down, but she chooses happiness. Like when we talk about like your ability to lean in and maneuver through life, like this conversation that we're having right now is truly reflective of that. Like it really, 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 really is. So I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it goes against certain ideologies, orthodox practices, traditional beliefs, but you need to find what works for you. And when you're open-minded enough to do that, you'll find sometimes in that journey and that exploration, things that could be better for you. I will say traveling has helped to do that for me a lot, because you're in different places, right? A lot of people, they only read certain things, but have you gone to a library in another country to see another way of living? Have you read those books? Surrounding yourself by different people with different backgrounds, different cultures, it broadens your perspective a lot. So even if you see one way, you could see the antithesis of that, and then you could say,
you can see the what?
Antithesis.
What's that mean?
That's like the opposite.
What's the
That's like the opposite.
Girl, don't be using them big words. What's that? Spell that.
You can see.
Spell that. You know how to spell it.
Actually, I don't. I
don't be using no words that you don't know how to spell.
I mean, granted,
but you know what it means.
With autocorrect.
Does mean
what does that mean?
That's like the opposite of one way. Like if you say, okay, light, the antithesis.
So it's an antonym.
Don't use words you can't spell.
I don't know how.
Right, there you go.
A-N-T. To them.
And them.
I think autocorrect makes us, if we had to spell certain words, we'd be so embarrassed. Text message and autocorrect has made us so dependent.
So you said a way of living, right? What is the way of living? So if we're detaching from all of these norms
and the social
and these social constructs, the emotional constructs that come along with that, what is the way to live?
Yeah, I would say you can leverage those in terms of by referencing them and being selective and having enough discretion and discernment over what works best for you. I'm a big advocate of not eliminating things, right? Just because everyone else is doing it. Have a look at it. See if it might work for you. And then defining your own life, creating a customized life that works best for you, that's most advantageous for you. You're not hurting others, but you can breathe life into yourself because you're surrounded by resources and opportunities and people that allow you to be a better version of yourself. So you need to define what that looks like for you, and not being afraid to say, oh, what I have looks different than somebody else. Because another thing is, don't compare what you have to what somebody else has. Because
is comparison a thief of joy, you think? I have my opinion.
It can be, because it depends to what extent you take that, right? Because you could say, oh, I have this and you have that, right? But it could be something good. And if you look at their house, it could give you...
I agree.
It could give you...
Comparison be the door to opportunity. I don't know.
It could.
That's another
but
way.
it's the questions that you ask around, hey, what is that for them? How do they get it? Could be a good thing, but if you allow it to.
So going back to victimhood, comparison is not the thief of joy. We are, you are, the individual is.
I do believe that. Your way of thinking can really put you in some spaces because of how you're construing or perceiving whatever it is that you're seeing. So it's just all about your mindset for how you're doing that.
Do you try to be a good person, or are you a good person?
I am a good person. Right. When you are something, it shows up naturally. You show up as you are because that's in you. If you have to try sometimes, okay, it might be new for you, and then you might be. Hey, sometimes I'm like, you trying.
So you don't try, and that's what that's what radiates from you, Nikki. Like, you don't try to be a good person. You don't try to be kind. Like, it's really like a part of your being.
Yeah.
And I hope that that's what people pull from this episode. Like, your being matters more than anything.
Right.
Oftentimes we talk about like be positive, think positive. And if you notice, you haven't said any of those, like think positive, or because it really is a way of living, a way of being, and you model it every single day. Now, well, we're not saying that we're perfect. It's nobody's perfect, but she talked about like doing your self-work and making sure that you're doing things that really serve you. Now, on the flip side of that, right? We'll wrap it up in a little bit, but so knowing how to cater to your needs, that's one side of life, right? But the other thing about being an adult is accountability. Right. How do you hold yourself accountable?
Yeah, for me, I think accountability does start with the recognition of what you're going to be accountable for, how you're going to be accountable. Are you going to be consistent? Are you going to prioritize? And then what are those what's that you're going to do for that, and identifying the ways first. You have to start in your brain, in your emotional construct, to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do that. And then making sure that you set boundaries for yourself. Like, okay, I said I'm going to wake up on time. I say I'm going to do work for an hour. Even if it's supposed to be working 8 hours, you said I'm going to work an hour, and making sure that you're delivering to what you said.
How do you stay accountable in relationships?
In relationships, almost like I do everything else, you write things down, you set those goals, you set timelines for what they are. It could be a little bit, overly structured in that regard.
No, let me tell you why I asked that, though, because we all get challenged, right?
Yeah.
And I would say that you're the type of person that marches to her own beat and drum, right? And when we incorporate other people into our lives, we all know that it brings challenges. You incorporate kids, you have employees. Like, sometimes it's just easier to do life by yourself. How do you hold yourself accountable in that sense for somebody that's always like, choosing to be happy when you introduce other people? I mean, we know it too as wives, like, husband, children, whatever. How do you hold yourself accountable to make sure that it's like not always about you?
Right. You get to know about people. I ask people questions. What's your why? What motivates you? Where are you from? How do you think? What's your emotional construct? Because if you can develop those relationships better through communication, then you'll know how to work better with people, because not everybody is the same. Granted, if it's like in a workspace setting, something like that, there are certain protocols and rules that you have to abide by. But in other facets with friendships, or if you're in a romantic relationship, whether it's with family, you take the time to develop those relationships, evolve those relationships, and you all can come to
So you lean into your emotional intelligence.
I mean, for some people, you'll need to lean in more because of where they are. So you have to meet some people where they are. And then with that, hey, here are the accountability systems and structures. Like even going to brunch, right? It's like, okay, you all are busy. You all have children. I don't. So.
We always late.
I mean, it's okay. You better late. Look, better late
than never. We
were
on time yesterday, though. We just got lost in the parking
They got lost in the garage. The garage was next to my garage. I'm not sure how they got lost, but I took them to their car. I didn't judge them. Important, you don't judge them, but you meet people where they are, and you work with people. I really don't know how y'all got lost.
We're not going to tell you how we got lost either.
I don't know, honestly. I don't even remember.
Nikki, I guess my question for you, do you have any boundaries?
Yeah, for me, my first
Why you ask her if she got any boundaries? And this may be what I'm associating the word boundaries with, but can you elaborate?
I asked her, do she have any boundaries? Because I feel like she's a very open person. She is, Nikki, tell us, do you have any boundaries?
I'm just curious.
I think we all do in certain ways. And, for me, I think the boundary is saying, I'm not going to allow these things, these externals to impact me in this way. So you could set emotional boundaries. I'm not going to let this energy, this vibration, and it could be with people like, okay, don't do that. Don't touch that. Don't do this within the parameters that I've set. But yeah, I do have them.
And I think another reason why I asked you, right, do you have any boundaries, is because I know we just went all the way off topic.
No, we're good.
Off topic, but on topic, right? A lot of people in like the LGBT community set boundaries around who they will allow into their space, because there's, sexuality becomes sacred after sharing it.
Wait, say that again. I knew you were asking the question for a reason. I knew you were.
There. I mean, I knew
you were asking the question for a reason. Like I knew that there was a reason.
No, but a lot of people in the LGBT community, one, they share their sexuality, and then it becomes sacred based on how the person feels about it, or like, is there a boundary there, or is there a boundary there?
Well, I would say for certain people that might not, like it, that's one perspective. Another is you don't support it. And that's another perspective. So it's understanding those people. And if you're not supporting me, or if you're not giving me what I need in return, even just that support, even those certain energies, those words of whatever it is, then because you need to protect yourself from certain people in certain places, even though you're open-minded and you're receptive to the differences. Sometimes you have to say, no, that can't come in my house, or that can't be around my friends and my or your children or your family, because you need to make sure you're protecting you and protecting the things that are attached to you, to make sure it doesn't corrode your roots. We talk about toxicity a lot, which I'm sure is like another episode, but some of those things can be very toxic for you. Or granted,
she said she's coming back.
I'm coming back. Stay tuned. Certain things may not be healthy for your growth or just good for you. So you have to know how to protect yourself from certain things.
So can we define like and support?
Yeah, I think when we talk about, as an example, being a part of the LGBT community, there are certain people that might be affiliated with Christianity and religion, and they say, okay, you know what? I don't like this necessarily because I am a Christian, I'm a really big advocate of it, and they, say in the Bible, you're not supposed to, whatever. I think there's a difference between saying, I don't like that, and then I'm still going to support you. I'm still going to show up for you. I'm still going to be your friend. I'm going to be amazing to you, versus I don't support you because of that. So I'm no longer going to be here. I've changed my treatment towards you. So there's a difference between those things.
So in your role with defining the people that like or support you, what is it that you can offer to people in the LGBT community that may be on that same path of defining like versus support?
I would say do the best you can do, again, because there are certain people around the world where they don't.
Look in the camera, girl. Tell the people in the camera.
There are certain people around the world who don't have the privilege to be able to be open with their sexuality. So it's honestly going to be doing the best you can do with that, doing your self-work, setting those respective boundaries, and with that, still making sure you're prioritizing self-care and growth. It is very difficult because of where we are in America. And even in America, there are certain places and spaces where you still do not have the same things as others. Like, I have a very supportive group of friends and family, and the privilege that I've had.
I was the first one to support you.
She was the very first person to support me, and I'm grateful for that. She was like, come on out, baby. Come on out. That's what she said. Come on out. And I'm grateful for that. So, for the people that don't have that, don't give up hope. And definitely for people like her and you, leverage the mental health resources as much as you can, right? Even if you're in a country where you don't have that in physical form, if you have internet, get on the internet and reach out to somebody for help and talk to somebody, because you never know how that might change your perspective or even save your life.
I love that. Yeah. I think that those were some great questions. See, it was a great way to kind of like close us out here.
All right, I thought you was about to have a heart attack. I asked about boundaries. Y'all know, right?
Y'all know.
She'd be like, woo.
I need to do some work too, because we'll talk about that one day. But Yeah. When you said bound, because Nikki is free, she lives freely. So I was trying to figure out in what way where were you trying to go? I thought this thing was kind of get ready to get kind of explicit or something. I didn't know where we were going. I was like, well, where is she going with this? Like, we don't want to say that mess. I didn't know. But Nikki, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Before we wrap up, tell the people where they can follow you.
Yep, you can. First of all, my business is luxuriouswebdesign.com. So if you are in need of anything online, website, online marketing, search engine optimization, my organization last year became Google Partners. So with that, we'll work with you to maximize your exposure. And then, if you are in need of a consultation because of that, then you can, of course, go to that website and then you can make the connection with me that way.
What about your social medias?
Social media, my @ is Nikki Nick Global. So you can type that in on Instagram or TikTok and you can follow me there.
All right. And we'll tag her as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I love you too. And this is really, really, really great.
And I might cry. I'm not going to cry.
Don't do that right now. Wait till you cut the...
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching us again. We'll be back next week, and you can follow us at Success is Complicated on Instagram. We're on TikTok too, but yeah, it's the same. Success is Complicated. And until next time.
Bye. Bye.